Have you guys seen Orange is the New Black? The Netflix show, have you heard of it? Is that like this at all? What you guys have been through?
No.
It's not realistic.
No.
What's it really like?
Suckle on your lips so sweet. Taste the bitter guarantee I crave. Baby, don't you gotta stand so close to me, stand so close to me.
Just acknowledging that you understand that all phone calls and visits can be monitored and recorded. The pen's right there.
Hello, this is Florida Southern College News reporting to you about the mentally ill female offenders, a new segment.
With your news anchors, Zoe, Sophia, and Emily.
Today, we will be going over overall importance,
Impacts on society and the institutions.
Problems facing the unmet needs, incarceration, and more of mentally ill female offenders,
societal costs related to the problems of this population,
Current programming.
and future programming with creative and innovative ideas to address the issues presented.
People, what percentage of that are females?
Maybe only 10.
10.
10 to 50, about 15%. About 350 or so.
What is the social importance of mentally ill female offenders? It is important to understand the mentally ill female population of inmates, and more importantly, the impacts they have on the entire prison population, how we treat the inmates, how we incarcerate them, and what we can do to prevent future mistreatment and overall incarceration. Incarcerated women are unlikely to meet goals of economic and social independence, family reunification, and reduced involvement in criminal activities without adequate attention to their PTSD and other mental health problems, according to expert opinion of Barbara Bloom and Stephanie Covington.
And back to the news.
We realize that there's not a lot of education about mentally ill inmates in our population, so we wanted to interview an individual to see how they viewed mentally ill inmates currently.
Good evening. My name is Emily Carbo, and I will be asking you a series of questions. The reason for this interview is to get an insight of what everyday people think of mental illness. Are you okay with this?
Yes.
Alrighty, let's begin. In your opinion, what is a mental illness?
I think it's something wrong with someone's brain.
Can you provide any examples?
I guess like ADHD or something, chemical imbalance in the brain.
Okay, thank you. What do you think of people when you realize that they have a mental illness?
Sometimes I don't always realize I have a mental illness, but when I find out, I guess I kind of look at them differently. I don't think I judge them, but, maybe feel a bit more sorry for them.
Is it more of a unconscious thought?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. When you see someone acting out or behaving differently, as in children screaming in the supermarket or maybe adults getting violent, what is your first thought? Is it behavior issues or they might have a mental illness?
My first thought is behavior issues.
As in a mom not disciplining her child well enough or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you think suffers more from a mental illness, men or women?
I think men do.
Men. Is there a reason for that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Now we're going to switch to inmates. How do you think a woman who is incarcerated with a mental illness, such as PTSD or substance abuse, will be affected?
I think it'll be harder for her, if she suffers from something. She could be triggered by things.
How will her life be different if she was not incarcerated?
I think she'd still suffer greatly, but she'd probably have more triggers outside.
Mm. Are there any pros and cons to being incarcerated with a mental illness?
I think there's both. Cons, you're locked up and you don't really have much connection to the outside world or family members, I guess. so you might not get as much support, but at the same time you might get access to a mental professional without paying for it, I guess.
Alright. Well, this concludes this interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we wanted to go over the populations that were impacted, individually and societal. First was individual. Despite having more than 50% of inmates having a mental illness, only 33% of prison inmates and 16% of jail inmates receive any form of mental health treatment. That was from the expert Daniel in 2007. And the societal impact would be if the female inmates who do not receive any mental health treatment are released back into society, they will continue their old habits and both they and society will suffer. There is a difference in women with mental illnesses who are incarcerated and those who are not. 12% of females in the general population have symptoms of a mental disorder, compared to 73% of females in state prisons, 61% in federal prisons, and 75% in local jails. And that was by the experts James and Glaze in 2008.
Next, we will be discussing the financial cost of this issue. The cost of housing the general mentally ill prison population is more than the cost of the non-mentally ill inmates. They require more staffing and need more prescription medication. In Broward County, Florida, inmates who do not have a mental illness cost $80 a day to house, whereas an individual that has a mental illness costs $130 a day, according to the Treatment Advocacy Center and the National Sheriff's Association in 2010. In the years of 2010 and 2011, females specifically were costing $372 a day, and males were less at $248 a day. The cost of housing a female inmate per year is $135,000, according to Christie in 2012.
There are certain needs for our assigned population. Women tend to internalize stress, which may explain why female inmates engage in self-harming behavior such as cutting, carving, and burning themselves. Women have more frequent suicide attempts and use medical and mental health services at more than twice the rate of male inmates. Jails also typically don't provide feminine products or toilet paper to their inmates, which is a health risk and is also dehumanizing to them. Women experience a lot of trauma before they enter the prison system, and they also experience it in the prison system. Women who are incarcerated typically have experienced more trauma than the general public has. They also have had a lifetime prevalence of PTSD that was higher than the general public as well. Women who are incarcerated reporting using drugs in response to their most traumatic event that they've experienced. So in addition to mental health services, they also need access to substance abuse programming. Over 1.5 million children have had a parent in prison, and more than 8.3 million children have a parent under correctional supervision. This also leads to their special needs being parenting classes for mothers who are incarcerated, therapy and substance abuse classes such as AA and NA.
In our research, we also discovered that a lot of mentally ill offenders commit or try to commit suicide. In a correctional facility in San Diego, that was a big issue for them, and they wanted to try and reevaluate how they house and treat mentally ill inmates. For decades, jails throughout the state have operated as de facto mental health facilities, a trend that intensified in recent years after California changed its laws to keep some offenders out of the state's overcrowded prison system. In San Diego County, where there were 12 inmate suicides in 2014 and 2015, Sheriff Bill Gore and his staff have been working to improve mental health services at the county jails to prevent more deaths. The department has modified the mental health screening process when inmates arrive at jail, created enhanced observation housing for inmates at high risk of harming themselves, and started using video-based telepsychiatry to expand the ways in which an inmate can see a doctor. According to Littlefield in 2017.
And now back to the news.
So we have already discussed the professional standpoints that are being addressed with mentally ill female offenders. Now we want to address the societal standpoints that are going to be addressed.
In continuation with the solutions and programming to address the problem, the societal standpoint is based off the trauma theory. The trauma theory is necessary for all service providers to become trauma-informed if they want to be effective. The first step is to take the trauma into account. The next step, avoid triggering trauma reactions and or re-traumatizing the individual. Next, you adjust the behavior of counselors, other staff, and the organization to support the individual's coping capacity. Finally, you allow survivors to manage their trauma symptoms successfully so that they are able to access, retain, and benefit from these services.
The first example of a program that can be used to assist the female mentally ill offenders is called Helping Women Recover and Beyond Trauma. Helping Women Recover is a program for treating addiction, and Beyond Trauma is a healing journey for women. They're both delivered sequentially in a group format as a combined treatment package, since normally they are delivered separately. Helping Women Recover Beyond Trauma is manualized, targets both substance use and symptoms following trauma exposure, and is based broadly on relational theory and gender responsiveness. Gender responsive approaches consist of comprehensive services that take into account the content and context of women's lives, and it also addresses gender-specific adversities. Helping Women Recover consists of 17 sessions spanning 4 modules, including self, relationship, sexuality, and spirituality. Beyond Trauma consists of 11 additional sessions organized into 3 modules, including violence, abuse, and trauma, the impact of trauma, and healing from trauma. Both HWR and BT include psychoeducation and cognitive behavioral techniques, as well as expressive arts such as drawing and music, and are based on increasing coping skills and emotional expressiveness following trauma. Both of the programs are designed to be delivered over a 3 to 4 month period in either outpatient, residential, or correctional settings.
The second program used to assist mentally ill female offenders is the animal-assisted therapy. According to Jasperson in 2010, researchers have been examining the human-animal relationship in order to understand the symbiosis that exists. Some studies have found a great deal of support for the strength of the affectional bond between pet and owner.
Lastly, we wanted to come up with a creative and innovative way to address future programming. We wanted to create a program similar to a Best Buddies or support program that volunteers visit the inmates with mental illnesses at the institutions and help them with skills needed to reintegrate back into society, such as finding a job or staying on schedules, etc. A lot of inmates with mental illnesses don't have much family left due to them leaving, not being able to handle the stresses of taking care of someone with a mental illness. This will help them feel wanted and hopefully give them the motivation they need to stay on track with medication and finding a job.